What's up, everybody? You're listening to Disassembled, the official podcast of the Big Glasgow comic page. It is Saturday, June 12th, and we're coming to you definitely not live to talk about some shit. That might be the best intro we've ever done.
Oh, so smooth. So smooth.
How dare you guys talk before I introduce Massimo's here.
Hello.
Dan's here too. Dan's also here.
Dan's here too. Dan doesn't have a new computer like Massimo, but he is here.
Oh, yeah.
Dan is here too.
I'm in the big leagues now, baby. I can run 2 applications with my laptop crashing.
Oh, yeah. Massimo got a new PC, so that's exciting. You play video games?
It's just a shame he's a pre-built bitch.
Right. Look, I don't have the money to buy these.
There was the entire idea of build your own versus pre-built is it was always the argument that buying your own parts and building it yourself is cheaper than a pre-built, and that is no longer true at the moment.
Exactly.
It was true in summer 2019 whenever I built this.
Summer 2019 is 2 years ago.
Yeah, exactly, before pre-lockdown.
That was a different time. That may as well have been a different universe.
No,
that was
it was summer 2020.
Of Earth.
It was May 2020. Actually,
yeah, it was literally by June and July though.
That September, because I was looking to get more RAM for this. At the time I looked, it was 60 quid for 2 sticks of RAM. Seeing November when I was going to buy them, it was 120, 130.
Oh yeah, I bought this GTX 1650 and 16 gigs of RAM to upgrade my little Alienware pre-built right when COVID was hitting, so it was affordable. I think the graphics card was only $180 or US dollars or something like that, which is whatever in European funny money. With old ladies, I don't know what your money looks like. What does Scottish money look like?
It was pounds.
Okay,
pound sterling.
Okay, this week we're talking about guilty pleasures in comic books, which runs a span of books and comic book related movies. Video games too, if you have something to throw in there, but a bad video game to me is just kind of a bad video game. It's really hard to enjoy a bad video game even as a guilty pleasure. I do have a couple, but they're not comic book related.
I have a few that I think I could definitely get away with that are comic book related, but they don't, they aren't bad necessarily by mechanical standard, just bad story standard, I guess. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess that could fall into that category. Yeah, in which case, most Spider-Man games would be that. Then we're going to talk about news, and then we are this week going to talk about Loki, which has premiered, and I'm assuming you both watched it.
Yep.
Good.
Day one, baby.
It's a great show.
I swear I'll get more depth later on. It would just be.
See, the thing, a little bit of backstage here. The thing about these podcasts is I'm 8 hours behind these guys. So for them, it's about 4:30 in the afternoon. For me, it's 8:30 in the morning, and I just recently woke up, which is why I always seem a little groggy when we're recording these. It's I kind of am still shaking the cobwebs out of my head as we're going along.
And yet he still has more life than us because he's not Scottish.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know.
Me and Dan having to pull out the giant run lights and share them on our faces.
That Irish blood makes you forever hungover. There's no getting out of that.
It's a gift. It comes with the blue eyes and the illustrious blonde hair.
Anyway, comic books.
Comic books. So guilty pleasures. We just kind of went over what that means. Basically, it's bad, but you like it. Well, let's be clear here, okay? Bad is subjective. There are some objectively bad comic books that I don't understand why anyone could enjoy. Dark Knight Strikes Again. Which
it's a really bad code you've got there.
By the way. But in this case, it's subjectively bad, but you still enjoy going back to them. You still enjoy picking them up, flipping them through, whether it's because something about the story, as bullshit as it is, speaks to you, or just really, really, really good art, which I think that's going to be the case with a lot more of these. Who wants to go first?
I've got one, but I'll let you. Okay. So for comic books, I was actually struggling. I came up with a movie and a video game pretty quick, but for comic books, I really had to think. And I actually kind of grudge to say this book because I like Garth Ennis, and
Garth Ennis has a lot of guilty pleasures.
I don't hate the story because I know what it is, but you might not even have heard of it. It's a series called Jennifer Blood, and it's a kind of chick-exploitation film. It's this woman who lives a normal life and she's like a secretary or something, and it's pretty much Punisher. Her family dies, she becomes a kind of vigilante hit woman at times, and she kills kind of gangsters and assholes, and it's very Punisher Max, but it's way more gratuitous and explicit in both its violence
Then
and
Punisher
sexuality,
Max?
and
It's
Shit,
gratuitous
man.
and I was gonna say.
like the first volume, she kills a guy with an axe, and it takes about 3 pages of the book. And
Jesus.
you see every blow, and as she pulls it out, you see the wound, and then you see the next blow until the guy's just in pieces. Like she puts it right through his skull at one point. She pulls the axe up, it's got chunks of brain on it, and you see the big gap in his head and the bone. And the artwork's gorgeous, like it's really detailed, but it's grotesque. And yeah, there's a certain scene as well that there's a guy, some asshole millionaire on a yacht, and he's just pretty much Harvey Weinstein. And again, that's kind of shown in quite gory detail. He does get his comeuppance, she does kind of finish him off, but yeah, it's just certain parts that you're just like, I'm kind of enjoying this because it's satisfying and it's violent. I know these guys are clearly bad people, but it's also a bit
Not much in it.
yeah, it's a bit, oh, okay, violence and I don't know, killing bad guys. But it's the first volume's entertaining. I think I bought the first 3, and by like halfway through volume 3, I was like, okay, I get it.
So
I'm kind of sick of this now.
I want to point out something, Dan. You're the guy who didn't think the Invincible train scene was gory enough, and this is a book that you're saying has too much violence.
Right.
You said it has too much.
I guess what I mean is, my thing with any sort of explicitity in anything, whether it's sex and nudity, whether it's violence, whether it's swearing or drug use, as long as it's appropriate for the story it's telling.
Sure.
Some things like Game of Thrones, I feel there's a lot of unnecessary scenes of that kind of thing thrown in just for shock value. The Walking Dead as well, I guess.
They fucking a lot in that show.
Yeah.
Whereas they complained, like when Wolf of Wall Street came out, I remember all the complaints, and everybody was saying, "Oh, like Scorsese's an older man now. Why does he need to put this young lassie in the film and have all these sex scenes?" And then I watched an interview with Jordan Belfort, and he actually said, "Do you know what? I watched the film. Also, it's based on his life." He said, "I watched the film, and they toned it down. Like, see what you see in the film. That's nowhere near as bad as what it actually was." So in that case, that stuff was there to serve the story. The drug use and the sex and all the rest of it, it was there because it happened and it served the story being told. I'm fine with that. You can be as close to the bone as you want when it comes to that. But when it's like, I don't know, in Invincible, I didn't feel like it landed because it was animated. That had a bit of an issue with that. And Jennifer Blood as well, a lot of it seems a bit over the top and unnecessary. I mean, I love the Mortal Kombat games, so I can't really go on too much about how, like, too much violence. But I don't like when it distracts me. When I'm like, why is this person naked? Why is this person getting decapitated? There's no real reason for it. That's when it takes me out of it. And I'm like,
everything in moderation.
Yeah. I'm fine with anything as long as it serves, as long as there's a purpose for it, as long as it's kind of appropriate to the story being told. But yeah, Jennifer Blood's just a bit over the line for me. But it's still entertaining, but it's a bit tiresome to read. Do you know what I mean? You can only look at so many people getting chopped up and eaten by sharks and shot in the head with a sniper rifle till like they're decapitated, and before you're like, okay, I get it. Whereas Punisher Max, I felt like even though that was very gruesome and violent, the story carried it. Do you know what I mean? That used its violence better, I think.
Yeah.
Personally.
Well, I think my roof on those sort of things might be a little bit higher than yours.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm
listening to it and I'm just like,
check.
That all sounds fantastic. Like I'm into it. I think I take the opposite stance where I'm like, the more ridiculous and over the top it is, the more I'm like, all right, yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I hate when something has overblown. I remember the first time I watched Hostel, and I get told 100 million times, "Oh, that's the most violent we've ever made. It's sick." I watched Hostel, and I was like, "Is that it?" Like, I really expected more out of it. So on the other hand, I'm also a person that can be disappointed when it gets built up too much, and then I see it and I'm like, that's what all the fuss is about.
Which I think we might have built up the Invincible thing a little bit too much.
We might have, to be fair, yeah. It's because I think when you watch it without knowing what happens, it's more shocking than if someone relays it to you and then you watch it.
Well, especially for me, because I just recently got done reading the comic series, and the sequence where Mark fights Nolan, spoilers, is
toned down.
In the comic, it's just it's like a Dragon Ball Z fight. Like, they're in the middle of the desert and Nolan beats the shit out of him and leaves. Like, you don't have this whole sequence of Nolan almost torturing him emotionally. So it was shocking because I was like, oh, they're going places with this. Okay, they're doing some shit here. That comic sounds great. I'm gonna look that up because Punisher Max is one of my all-time favorites.
It's like a less kind of depressing, dark Punisher Max, like a lighter Punisher Max in terms of story. Even though it's still about like rapists and drug dealers, they're not. I don't know. It's just it's not. It's more shiny. It's more more comic book, I guess. Yeah.
It's funny because it kind of goes into that thing we were talking about a couple weeks back, where I mentioned how like someone like the Punisher. In real life, if there was a vigilante killer like the Punisher, it would be terrifying. You'd be like, someone needs to stop this guy. But in comic books, you're like, well, obviously the people he's killing are unquestionably bad people. So I'm fine with this.
But I think the thing with Frank Castle though is he's so much of a perfectionist that he does always do his kind of background checks before he goes to enemy compound or wherever it is he's going. And I think. Is there not a few stories where he has maybe killed someone and then found out it was the wrong person? I'm sure they've done that in one of the comics.
They had to, right? Like,
so that gives you an extra kind of story angle to go in with.
There's actually in the Ultimate Universe, when we were getting close to the death of Peter Parker's Spider-Man, part of what precipitated that event was him getting in the way of a sniper shot from Frank Castle. Which is part of what weakened him, and then Green Goblin kills him, except for maybe he's not really dead years later. I don't know. But after that happens, the Punisher thinks he killed Spider-Man, and he pretty much like turns himself in and is like, "Kill me! Like, I don't deserve to live. I'm as bad as the people I hunt now."
Yeah.
I guess as well, was there not the whole thing? He assassinated Captain America at the end of Civil War.
Is that not Crossbones?
No, that was Crossbones, and it wasn't even actually Crossbones. It was Sharon.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
it was brainwashed. Crossbones fired off a sniper shot, but he's Captain America. What actually took him out? What actually killed? And for the audio listeners, I'm using big air quotes. Killed him.
Actually, sent him back in time
with a time bullet. About the same time that Darkseid did the same shit to Batman.
With Batman. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh man,
guys, come on. If you're gonna ape each other like that, like at least space it out by a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's like how I felt like Secret Wars was just like better Convergence.
Who did it first, Mark Millar or Grant Morrison?
Speaking of guilty pleasures, Morrison, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah,
I don't know for sure. Morrison, I'm sure had it planned. Because Morrison, his whole Batman run is.
That's how his mind works. Yeah.
Is that? I mean, that like that whole run when he gets sent back in time and there's different variations of the bats. I really like it.
I'm going to say a good few stories came out of that. Yeah, totally.
It's all really
the
good
Return
stuff.
of Bruce Wayne, where he's going through time, and even like Dick Grayson Batman was one of my favorite Batman runs. Just that entire thing. It was so like weird and trippy and psychedelic, and it was different. And it was so different from Prodigal back in the 90s, where Dick Grayson took over as Batman after they took out Azrael. It was just really good. But we're not talking about that because that's not a guilty pleasure. That's a genuinely good. That's a genuinely good line of comics. Dan, you got anything else for guilty pleasures?
For guilty pleasure movies, talking about Mark Millar, I went with Wanted. Wanted is such a popcorn garbage blockbuster, but it's super entertaining.
It is, isn't it?
It's just switch your brain off. If you're tired or drunk, you can just stick it on. It's easy watching. It's entertaining as hell. The curved bullets and all the rest of it. And even though the movie's kind of bad, I read the comic afterwards, and I did go in expecting
so much worse.
Better. Well, I didn't expect it to be, because usually the comic's better. Yeah, the film's way better. The film's like the film is Citizen Kane compared to the comic.
The comic was
Yeah.
literally, they were like, what if we made Eminem a serial killer?
Yeah, it's so bad. And Halle Berry's the Angelina Jolie character, and like
Right.
the tone's different as well. Like it's so much
It's
more.
completely different. Like,
Yeah.
Take yourself too seriously, I'm guessing. I've not actually read the comic.
No,
but-
No,
it's
kind of
like
the opposite.
completely like,
really?
you know,
Yeah,
okay, so in the movie
it's
they're a guild of
weird.
assassins, right?
Yeah. With the
In
weird weavy thing that like
Mhm.
makes them who
Right,
they
That's
so
are.
not
comic-
none of that's in the comic.
Yeah, in the comic they're just supervillains. They're the Legion of Doom and they kill all the superheroes and they just do bad shit.
Oh, that's much
It's
less entertaining than
completely
the
Yeah.
film.
Yeah,
It is Mark Miller as hell.
yeah. It's Mark Miller without an editor.
There's a lot of these stuff nowadays anyway, but we're not gonna.
So yeah, I mean the movie, it's not a good film. Like at the end, spoilers, when Angelina Jolie fires a bullet around the whole room and then walks in front of it, like it's.
Oh yeah, the 360
But-
curve bullet.
But
Yeah.
you know what? It's fun.
And then that
No,
final
it was-
shot with the sniper bullet as well, where it passes through the
Yeah.
Yes.
goes high. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
also
What the
phenomenal.
fuck have you done lately?
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. Yeah.
Also, great use of Every Day is Exactly the Same by Nine Inch Nails. Great use.
Yeah. Also, see did you guys play the tie-in game? The tie-in game was awesome.
That was
He
actually
played-
really, really fun.
He played some of it as his dad, because now
Yeah.
you found it later his
Yeah.
dad was, and then he had this awesome like suit that wasn't in the film, and then
Okay,
was it
that's
Wesley,
his
the
suit
guy who
from
was
the
James-
comic. I
Yeah.
love that they integrated that.
yeah, and then I think it was James McAvoy's character was Wesley, wasn't he? So he gets the suit and goes after like the League of Assassins, and yeah, the game's great, and
Yeah.
I think it was the first game I ever platinumed. I want to say. I mean,
That's
wrong.
the thing about the movie and even the game is like, yes, the story is dumb. It's all very
Mhm.
dumb, but like, it's so cool.
And the bullet curving mechanic in the game was also fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they'd done more with that. There were some genuinely kind of neat ideas
You-
there.
You'll probably get that for about £3 on Steam, so it's worth checking out.
Well, I've got that new PC. Might as well give it something graphically intensive.
I don't know if there's ever a PC version.
Oh, was there not?
I'm curious now. Let's find out.
That'll be somewhere. It'll probably be imported since, because it's about 10 year old now. So.
Yeah, there'll be a version available online to rip from, maybe.
No,
No?
there was never.
Oh, that sucks.
If you
Well,
look up Wanted on Steam, the closest thing you get is Need for Speed Most Wanted, which
Phenomenal
is
game.
That's-
on sale for $7. So
that's kind of sad then. That's one of the games, like we were talking about the other week, those games that just get left behind.
Yeah.
Because PS4 is not backwards compatible and PS5 can't play PS3 games, that game's just dead now. That's
Yeah.
sad.
well, I'd be willing to bet that. Let's see who developed the Wanted game. Because here's the thing: the reason a lot of that happens is
Weapons
right
of Fate
stuff,
was the name of the game.
Yeah, the reason a lot of that happens is because the developer who made the game and the smaller games like that. Oh, Grin did that. Okay, that makes sense. Grin made a lot of really good stuff. Those fucking crazy Swedes. No, really, they're from Sweden, and
Yeah, well, the game did have like a European setting. I remember that. Like, he left America and went to Europe, I think. In the game.
yeah, they also made they made Advanced Warfighter, the PC version of Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter. They made the Bionic Commando reboot. And then they were making a bunch of other stuff before it got canceled because they shut down and formed a new studio at one point. So anyways, what I'm getting to is a lot of games like that is like the developer shuts down and there's no one to make sure
the rights,
that they
yeah.
bring forward that backwards compatibility.
Yeah, there's a lot of right holder issues and stuff like that.
Exactly.
You can buy a used copy of Wanted Weapons of Fate on Amazon for the PC. You can buy
Oh,
that.
yeah, apparently it was on. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
copy. That's fair.
Well, Massimo, if you're looking for games to watch that Beef Boy PC on.
Exactly. Yeah. Use all of its potential to run a.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my
13-year-old
computer
game.
3 years ago could run Wanted Weapons of Fate.
My laptop can run it. Yeah.
Hey, Massimo. Speaking
Oh,
of things that you like,
it's me.
what are the bad things that you like? Tell me your darkest secrets.
Oh, if we're gonna be here for a while. No.
It's getting steamy.
It's steamy in here. Yeah. So,
I don't know why.
that's the steamy noise. That's the
I needed something, all right?
something to bring attention. No. So with comic books, I had a few kind of floating around stuff like that, but one of the main ones that I really enjoy and people absolutely hate, and although it is a terrible comic book, basically saved DC in the early 90s, is Death of Superman. This horrendously terrible
Hell
comic book.
yeah.
But it's literally, like, I'm going to open this up, I'll show the audience at home, audio listeners, you're screwed at this one, but I can maybe give a good description of it, is that this is a book that is literally the final issue of it. If anyone knows, for the early 90s, Death Superman, Doomsday, that's where all that comes from. Doomsday basically kills Superman, and the world is left.
I don't mean to interrupt, but do you know what the genesis of that story was?
I do not.
Okay, so in the early 90s, they were kind of spinning their wheels with Superman. They're doing things like they're marrying Lois Lane and Clark Kent.
Yeah.
They're trying to line up a lot of things with the Lois and Clark, the New Adventures of Superman show, with
What show?
Dean, whatever his name is, and the chick that played Lois. I don't remember.
Not Courtney Cox. The other one.
No.
Terry Hatcher.
Cox's Lois would have been an interesting choice.
Terry Hatcher and Dean Cain.
And Dean Cain, which Dean Cain has his own issues in the modern day. But so they're trying to line things, and basically they were trying to figure out what to do. So all the time they would have their writers meeting, and they would have this big whiteboard where they would write down ideas. And there would always be, as kind of a joking, like, last-ditch effort, there would always be, like, kill Superman as kind of a joking idea. And they got so tired of having to line up with this show and trying to figure out what to do. They were like, what if we just do it? What if we just kill Superman?
Well, the thing is...
And so they did it.
Yeah. It basically saved DC in the early 90s, though, right? Like, I'm pretty sure at that point the company was in a very bad state. And it was like, well...
The death of Superman was maybe the first comic book event that garnered widespread media attention. Where they talked about it on the news.
Yeah,
I mean, you could comic book stores.
Point out as well the fact that this, if you look at YouTube, this like came with little collector things and all that stuff, and it was like,
oh yeah, do you have does it have the armband?
Yeah, it's got the armband.
That's actually pretty sick.
Yeah, it's like one of those things, and obviously it's got the Tombstone cover as well. And on the back, it's like a world with Superman as the checklist. You can see that YouTube version. But yeah, no, this book it's terrible. But I remember seeing it when I was younger. I think I bought it at Comic-Con. It was like £8. I bought it and I read it. I really enjoyed it, and I sought out other versions. Like I sought out kind of Funeral for a Friend as well, which is the follow up, the directly sequel issue to Death of Superman, and as I grow older and you read it and you realise, I like this because it has big, lovely pictures, including this last final splash page that is honestly phenomenal. It's great. It's this here. And then, if you can see it there.
I mean, the cape, the ripped cape flag at half-mast is iconic. That is such a brilliant image. Absolutely. And I think a lot of the thing about Death of Superman is it got away with it because it was the first. See, now we've did Death of Wolverine, Death of Christ, we're going to get into news, and Death of Doctor Strange has been announced, and Death of everybody, right?
Yeah.
Death of Superman was the first, and I think it really was kind of proof that this is a viable story option. Unfortunately, it meant, here we go, let's kill Captain America, let's kill kind of everyone.
It had some really interesting ideas at the time, and it obviously led to characters like Connor Kent, Superboy, Steel, characters who now become iconic.
I think it was a pioneering kind of story element that was ballsy at the time, and that kind of carried over, even though it's not a great comic. The fact that they did it, and the fact that, as you were saying, Massimo, it kind of saved them. It was huge. That's why it's remembered fondly. I think that's the positive element of it.
Yeah, I mean, that art, that was Dan Jurgens at the height of his powers. I mean, he's still really good, but that was like, holy crap! I can't believe comic book. That was like. It was like Watchmen levels of I can't believe a comic book looks like this. A couple of fun things about Death of Superman. 3 things. Thing number 1, I also saw Death of Superman when I was little. And of course, when I say little, I mean before you were born. Not by much, though. I think I was maybe 8 or 9, so only a couple of years off from you being a twinkle in your father's eye.
I was here.
I think I was in a bookstore, and it was like a collection, like a trade paperback of the Death of Superman, and it had this image, the image of Superman battered and beaten, being held by Lois Lane after being beaten by Doomsday, and he had, the blood streaming out of his wounds, but but you had the Comics Code Authority still in effect, I think. So the blood was not red; it was like black.
That's right. Yeah.
And as a kid, I'd seen the Superman cartoon at that point, I think, but I wasn't at the age where I logically put things together. So I saw that, and for some reason in my little kid brain, I thought it was oil, and I was like, "Well, they call him the Man of Steel. Is Superman a robot?" And
not that one.
It's been done, yeah.
Not that one,
yes.
but there's
of course, Cyborg Superman would then come out of that. So
yeah.
The irony there. Second thing.
There must have been a DC writer in the room with you that was like, "Oh, that's a fucking good idea." They owe you money, mate.
They're going somewhere. He's going to a 10x10 room and he's going to work at a Best Buy. Second thing is, have you guys read any of the Tales of the Dark Multiverse books from DC?
I read the one that was Infinite Crisis one, the one that tied in with that. That's
dumb.
The one I read.
They're all kind of dumb, but that one's especially dumb because if you think about it, it's taking place in the Dark Multiverse, but like it's its own crisis. And then they made one about death metal or about metal, which is also it's a dark.
It's
the dark multiverse of the dark. Whatever, who cares? Anyways, they did one for the death of Superman, and I highly recommend it. It's really fun. It does not go in any directions you think it would.
Oh, I love crazy stuff like that. So it's good.
It's about Lois Lane.
Ooh,
I'll say that. It's about a jaded, angry Lois Lane. It's really good. The best Dark Multiverse books are the ones where they do take it in a direction you don't expect. And there are a few. I think that might be the best one. Nightfall, the first one they did, is pretty good. The Infinite Crisis one they did is pretty good. And the Blackest Night one is also pretty good. So highly recommend that. Check that out. Third thing. Did you watch the animated Death of Superman movie?
I watched that first before I read the comic.
Okay. Well,
that was my first exposure to it.
Let me clarify. There are two Death of Superman movies. There is Superman Doomsday.
Superman, the one that has the red DVD box art that has the red Superman, it's black.
I think have no idea, but
God, hang on, let me.
Superman Doomsday is the one where Alec Baldwin, I think, Alec Baldwin, one of the Baldwins, the Baldwin that played Jane in Firefly, is the voice of Superman, which is a weird choice, and the art
it's that one.
Yeah. So that one's okay. The one to watch now is the two-parter, the Death and Return of Superman that they did with the newer animated DC universe. I did not love a lot of the new animated DC movies. That one, really, really, really good. Like, they do it justice. In fact, I think they improve some things. They actually make it a good story. Plus, it was written by Peter Tomasi, who writes a hell of a Superman. So probably watch that. It's real good.
Yeah,
that's all. That's my 2 cents on the Death of Superman.
I think as well, just like kind of obviously when I kind of cap off that kind of Death of Superman stuff, is that although it's a bad storyline and it obviously did save DC as a company and it introduced iconic characters, it definitely introduced the interesting concept of what is a world without Superman. What is a world where there is no hero to swoop in and save the day? And in doing that, kind of set a precedent for a lot of New Age comics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I see what you mean.
Those kind of stories of like, oh, what if there is no this or that, or what if there's no this, or you know what I mean? Like, there is no Batman, there is no Superman, there is no Spider-Man, there is no Justice League, whatever it is, that kind of thing.
And then Zack Snyder was like, I'm going to take this and totally fuck it up.
Ruin it. Yeah, fun time.
No, Zack Snyder doesn't do that.
Never, right? If we're talking about other kind of media, one thing that sprung to mind when you were talking about Wanted, Dan, it's kind of, I always consider this movie to be comic book adjacent, is the film Jumper.
Sure.
With Hayden Christensen.
Oh. Yeah.
Absolutely completely shit, like completely ruined what was supposed to be a big franchise and all that stuff. Had like Samuel L. Jackson in it, I believe. Yeah. Completely ruined the big franchise. But as Jamie Bell is in it as well. But it's a whole film about guys who develop the ability to teleport. And how that affects it. It's I said could be a great film, but isn't phenomenal. It's one of those things you put on. And it's like always a comfort watch for me because I remember watching it when I was younger. But I really enjoy that film, and I think it's really good. And they've done a YouTube premium follow-up series called Impulse, I believe, in 2018 that I'm still yet to see, but I remember hearing about it. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's comic book adjacent. It's not exactly comic books, but it is kind of.
Yeah, it's based in that lore. For me, that's one of the films that's probably better in hindsight. I remember seeing that at the time, and after seeing the trailers and stuff, being a wee bit disappointed. And then years later, I don't know, maybe I still had DVDs at the time, or if it was online, I watched it. I don't remember. But I seen it again, and I was like, do you know what? This is better than I remember. This film's all right.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like a solid film in hindsight.
Just didn't catch on.
If I'm going for one guilty pleasure thing, I'm completely strayed away from the world of comic books now when I say this, and I watched this film recently again, and that is Highlander.
Oh, what a film, man. What a soundtrack.
What a soundtrack, what a film.
What a soundtrack. Here we are, Princes of the Universe.
That whole Queen, just that.
It's a kind of magic.
It's great. But that film does not hold up. Like, it holds up, but some of the stuff in it is very 80s.
That
like, very
captures a time period.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's my guilty pleasure film because unlike films like, like around that period, like, Die Hard or Rocky or Back to the Future, it's not one of those evergreen films. It is very much a time capsule of the period and was completely, like, lambasted when it first came out. But now, ain't too bad.
You see, I'm kind of opposite. You want to talk about a film that was great when you were young and you didn't really know any better. I used to love that film. I used to watch it every second night, and I had some sort of a pole or a sword, and I would swing up at my room and hit my wee sister with it. But I went back. Courtney hadn't seen it, my other half hadn't seen it, and it was the other couple of weeks ago, and we were bored looking for something
on Netflix. Yeah,
and I'm like, I know this. I think it was on Netflix, and I was like, this is a classic. You'll love this. And I put it on, and we got about 10 minutes in, and I was like, Jesus, this is awful.
Right,
so bad.
Right. It doesn't.
You know the way that, like when you think of PS1 games, they look good graphically in your head, and then you go back to them and they're really ugly. The same thing happened with Highlander. In my head, it was like this epic
PS1 graphics, though.
Yeah, well, this is like this epic kind of century-spanning sword-fighting badass film, and I went back to it. It was just the sound effects and the light.
Christopher Lambert and
the cinematography, the terrible accent. You've got a Scotsman playing a Spaniard and Sean Connery, and you've got a Frenchman playing a Scot. It was sure.
Speaking of Superman and Highlander, Henry Cavill may be starring in the Highlander movie.
Yeah.
Accidental segue, by the way.
To be fair, that is like that. The basis is there for a good updated story. I think they could do it.
Yeah, like they had movies all the way up until the early 2000s being.
Oh yeah. The sequels were horrible. Yeah,
they were also crap.
Yeah, the TV
show
even
worse.
The TV show was apparently really good. People really liked the TV show. I never like seen it.
My grandfather watched the TV show a lot when I was really little, and so I've seen it, but I was so young I do not remember anything about it.
On VHS, I had an animated TV show.
Of
Highlander. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
No, there's two.
Right,
There's an animated one that takes place in the future.
Back when weirdly mature films got strangely kid-friendly animated.
Yeah.
They made animated RoboCop, dude.
Yeah,
so that's the one set in 2042, and it's like about the last descendant in the MacLeod clan and Connor's Den and all that stuff. But there was a TV show made in the 90s that was on for like 7 seasons.
Yeah.
That follows Duncan MacLeod, who's like another member of the MacLeod clan who also finds out he's a Highlander.
Yeah.
Or whatever they're called, the quick, you know what I mean. I don't know the race of immortals in that.
He's the quickener.
Yeah,
I got a fancy head, and if you cut it off, I'll die.
Remember the CGI at the end when the dragon and all that, or the stump. Yeah, brilliant. About 10 years ago, again, it was E3 hype, I think, and I was like, "Oh, what's happening to E3?" I googled it. This is a good while ago. There was maybe a Highlander game coming. I can't remember who was developing it, but it was PS3 era. It was the PlayStation 3. The console wasn't long out, and then it fizzled out.
That was a thing developed by IDOS, and it was going to be published by Square Enix.
Final Fantasy mechanic-esque.
Last minute E3 prediction for tomorrow's conference.
There can only be one.
Oh yeah, I guess it was announced in 2008. It was canceled in 2010. So we're
never going to see. I think Highlander would make a really entertaining game. But yeah,
There
regardless
were
of
a
that.
couple of others. There was a game by Lore Design, published by Atari, that came out in 1995 for the Atari Jaguar. Good stuff.
Nice.
Good stuff. That looks like
no.
A
garbage.
shitty side scroller, I assume. Yeah.
And then there was a really bad. I don't know if it was really bad, but there was an arcade fighting game that came out in 1986 for the ZX Spectrum, the Commodore 64, and the Amstrad CPC. Way before my time. Way before any of our time.
Yeah.
Um,
No, that was a good one. No, Highlander's great, man.
Yeah, that was the kind of one of those films. Again, I always think comic adjacent because I feel like Highlander as a comic book would be phenomenally
they did make
gory.
a couple of Highlander comics.
I was going to say that would be a tie-in.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's kind of my guilty pleasures kind of covered. So
right.
the last one I listed, you, Ian. You gotta live up to Death of Superman Unwanted at the moment.
This is what I got for you.
Oh, you lived up to Death of Superman Unwanted with that thing.
I love how much mileage we've got out of this book.
Anyone who knows a goddamn thing about Batman knows what this is. This is
even if you don't know anything about Batman.
For audio listeners, we're talking about the Batman, Robin, the Boy Wonder, All Star.
Yes, I was going. Thanks for stealing my thunder. I was about to read the full name.
Oh, my bad. On you go.
It is All-Star Batman and Robin, the Boy Wonder.
Volume 1?
Volume 1 by Frank Miller, creator of 300 and Sin City. Creator Will Wright, and Jim Lee. This book's garbage.
Those people have a lot to answer for.
Yeah, all of them. Each and every one of them should be...
Jim Lee, you should know better.
Exactly, Jim Lee really should know better.
Spore was a disappointment. Speaking of guilty pleasures.
Also, it's volume 1?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was under. Yeah, I have a distinct memory of.
I knew where that question was going. No, there was no volume 2.
Yeah.
How many issues were announced compared to what came out?
How many were announced? I don't know. How many came out? 12.
I think there was 3. Was there not 3 covers of issues that we never got? Because I remember a cover that a Joker standing with his back to us with a tattoo on show, and he was like, he was washing his hands with blood. Right. Okay.
In fact, give me a second.
What I was thinking of is they did All-Star Batman Rebirth.
This is the
that's it.
Yeah. Which I was...
What a tattoo, man.
Yes, All-Star Batman Rebirth, completely unrelated to this.
Right.
It's almost as good as Ben Affleck's real-life back dragon tattoo.
Oh, no.
Have you guys seen that?
You mean the Phoenix?
Yeah, sorry, the Phoenix, yeah.
Real good stuff, Ben. Great stuff. He and J-Lo are back together. Good for him.
Good for him.
Apparently, he still had a watch that she bought him in the early 2000s. It's very sweet. So here's the thing about this book. At this point, they started putting this out in 2005, I believe. At this point, Dark Knight Strikes Again has already come out. Frank Miller has gone off the deep end.
Sorry, just Dan sent a photo of Ben Affleck's back tattoo.
It's got such Dark Knight, All-Star Batman Robin vibes. Is that just me?
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I don't even know where to start with this book. So this is supposed to take place, allegedly, all of Frank Miller's Batman books take place in the same continuity. This is supposed to be like his year 2, but this is not the same Bruce Wayne as you meet in Batman year 1. Batman year 1 Bruce Wayne is he's controlled, he's mostly sane, he's methodical, he's a good character that's compelling. This guy's a fucking nut job.
Yes.
He's a crazy.
It's like
person.
Nicolas Cage Batman. It's so good.
That is really,
A lot of people on the internet took to calling him Crazy Uncle Steve because he's not like, okay. So this is the origin of
Japan is slightly racist uncle.
He brutally beats a fucking teenager to prove.
So you immediately you jump off. The book starts with Bruce Wayne and Vicky Vale going to see, which, by the way, Jim Lee. So this is a good part of this book. Jim Lee at the absolute just like between this and Hush, early 2000s Jim Lee Batman was Chef's
gold
kiss.
standard.
Magnifique.
Yeah.
But Jim Lee does not skimp on the cheesecake factor in this book. We've got a nice shot of Vicky Vale in her goodies over here.
Lovely.
So Vicky Vale is going on a date with Bruce Wayne to see Haley Circus, and pretty much the entire time she's talking, she's like, "It's Bruce Wayne. I'm gonna screw him probably."
Because that's how females talk before they get out of the
No,
date.
Batman has sex in this book, man. Anyways, so you know how the Graysons die, and Bruce Wayne, like Batman shows up and he takes Robin, and then we have like 4 straight issues of them driving in the Batmobile, wherein time passes over the course of several days outside of that. Makes no sense. He's pancaking cop cars, which is like, what? Vicky Vale gets injured, and Alfred, who is...
Was it like in this comic again? I can't remember. I think I blocked all... I remember, I read this book, by the way, when I was like 13, 14.
Alfred, you can't really see it, but Alfred is jacked in this book, man.
What the...
Yeah, yes. Alfred does pull-ups. With his mustache.
They really lean into the like Alfred, like former SAS sort of thing in this. Batman takes Dick back to the cave and just makes him like
eat rats
and fend for himself. Yeah. Alfred's like, I'm not having any of that, and like sneaks him cheeseburgers and shit.
Alfred is like a nice person. Dude,
Alfred's like the only good part of this book. At one point, Bruce manhandles Alfred, and Alfred's like, "Nah, son." You get to meet Superman and Wonder Woman. They make out. Wonder Woman's like a super hyper feminist that thinks all men are trash.
Oh, I completely have blocked the memory of this out of my brain then, because I do not remember that happening at all. Completely. I've read this book, but
we meet Black Canary. Who was
I remember.
Yeah, she's working at the bar, and then too many people like play grab hands with her, and so she like kicks everyone's ass in her bar and quits. And it's her bar, so it's like, oh, okay. And then she goes on a motorcycle ride, and she meets Batman, and they have sex for some reason.
There's cop cars on fire in the background.
Yes, that should offend any fan of Green Arrow.
Is this book like a whole thing about all superheroes are horny all the time?
Okay, so you want to know what the plot to this book is?
Yes, please.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
I've read it, and yes, please.
Yeah,
isn't one. There's no plot.
I read this book maybe like 5-6 years ago, and again, parts of it, like I remember the Black Canary stuff, I remember all the stuff with Robin, but for some reason, no recollection of horny Superman and Wonder Woman.
Okay, so here's my favorite parts of this book. All right, in the last issue, the very last issue. The reason that we get Superman and Wonder Woman is the Justice League, as they are sort of forming, meet and discuss how Batman is a problem, which, by the way, totally incongruous with Superman Year One, which came out last year, which is also supposed to take place in the same continuity by Frank Miller. Totally doesn't make any sense. Anyways, let's not get into that right now, because that's its own bad book. So Hal Jordan, who's kind of is kind of an idiot, goes to kind of meet with Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson.
Oh my god, this is when he beats.
Oh no! So they paint an entire room themselves yellow, because we're going by old school Hal Jordan laws, where his weakness is the color yellow.
Before they overcame the impurity and all that
because stuff. Because of the impurity in the lantern, which is because of Parallax, which is a retcon thanks to Jeff Johns.
They serve him lemonade.
They serve him lemonade. He gets a little too threatening, and so Robin punches him in the neck, and he starts suffocating, and Batman's like, ah, shit. And so they do an emergency tracheotomy on him, and then Batman's like, oh no, maybe I have pushed this young psychopath too far. Like, Dick Grayson is much more Jason Todd than Dick Grayson in this book.
Yeah.
But flip side, I can absolutely see how this Dick Grayson grows up to be a psychopath Joker monster in Dark Knight Strikes Again. It's the only part that makes sense. Yeah. So they do the emergency tracheotomy, and he's fine. And then there's the only like really good moment in like legitimately good moment in the whole book at the end where Batman's like, okay, I'm handling this wrong. He needs to grieve. And so he takes Dick Grayson to the grave of his parents, and they have like this really touching scene where they like hold each other and cry in the rain at like the grave of his parents. And it's actually really sweet. And you're like, where was this the entire rest of the book? And then they never put out any other issues.
I say, what could have been? What could have been those other issues that would have been able to?
Okay, so they were setting up Joker doing a thing.
Yeah.
You meet the Joker. He's just got done sleeping with a reporter. I just did like a what the hell not or
yeah, because he's Tony Stark in this one apparently.
He's got the crazy dragon tattoo, which I actually thought the tattoo looked kind of cool, but like it's Joker, so eh. He then chokes the chick to death with his necktie. Then he walks out and meets Bruno, which is the chick with the Nazi boobs from Dark Knight Returns.
Yep.
Who apparently never ages.
Yeah.
I guess because this is a good 30, 40 years before Dark
Knight. So all of this book is supposed to take place in the same universes.
Yep.
Am I right in saying though that was something that was kind of decided by Frank Miller just before Dark Knight 3 came out?
Oh no, it's years and years ago he established that all of his Batman books.
I thought he just came out and was like, yeah, they're all in the same universe, like, and then everybody was like, that doesn't make sense. Right,
have fun with that, guys.
It's been a long time. Batman, Dark Knight Returns, Dark Knight Strikes Again, Year One, this, Batman Spawn.
The fact that
Batman Spawn takes place in this continuity.
This book shares the name with one of the best Superman stories of all time. Shares that all-star moniker with them. And it killed
that moniker. This is why they didn't continue with the all-star line. Superman did gangbusters, and then Batman was just a travesty.
Created one of the best stories in comics. Obviously, Morrison, Quitely, we're all big fans of that story here. We can talk about that to death, and we could probably do a special on that someday of how good that book is. But yeah, you're right. It just
review the website.
Yeah, review the website. It completely, All-Star Batman just killed it. Just completely murdered it in the crib.
But, the art is so good.
It's good, yeah.
Oh my god, like Jim Lee really does some amazing things. Like, there is when you first see the Batcave, Jim Lee does a 6-page spread that folds out, and it's just, he went to town. There's like 10 Batmobiles. There's the dinosaur. There's the penny. I think there's a Joker. Oh. I threw this book for dramatic effect, but let me...
Even the room, the yellow room that they make Green Lantern in, even though it's a dumb concept, the art's incredible.
Great, yeah. It looks like the fact you're able to contrast like Green Lantern's fucking suit himself with whole gold.
It looks amazing. Batman's got like ancient Roman centurion armor and samurai armor in glass cases. We've got all the Batmobiles, including what looks like the Bat Tank from The Dark Knight Returns under construction. I think that is one of the 90s Batmobiles. We've got the Batmobile from the 60s, not the TV show, but the cartoons with the big like bat emblem on the front. We've got a Batcopter, a couple Bat planes. We've got the T-Rex, which also appears to be under construction and is a robot, which okay,
Frank.
I don't think we have the coin actually, because that's not a thing. For the record, since we're talking about it, this is this is what we're talking about. Just all yellow, and then it is like really good contrast. And it's just, I really wish.
What a shame.
Here's the thing.
The thing is, it might have been good if they continued with it, because as you said, that last panel, that last issue.
I think it was a bet. I think it was a bet to see what some crazy shit we can get Jim Lee to draw. Well, I think that's the explanation for that story.
At that time, yes, The Dark Knight Strikes Again was kind of a bust, but like maybe that was a one-off. So they were still thinking, okay, Frank Miller's one of the best out there. Let's get him to do this book. And then it was like, oh no.
Yeah, totally.
Let me murder this character for the next 5 years.
Oh my god.
I totally understand DC's logic. Like, we'll get Grant Morrison's a great writer, get him to do Superman. Frank Miller's a great writer that's maybe had one bad book, let's get him to do Batman. I'm not questioning that. Like, that makes sense. But it just didn't work out.
Yeah, and it's...
What could it be now?
If you want to read like a pretty good Batman story from that era that has that level of Jim Lee art, read Hush.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Hush is That's
The
another one as well
last
that I
good
remember
Jeff
being
Loeb
good,
book, some would say.
Yes. Yeah.
Because then he also went off the deep end for like way more sad reasons than Frank Miller.
Yep.
That was a lot of talking about All-Star Batman. We are almost an hour already.
Jesus.
Also, the Thomas Jane and the Ray Stevenson Punisher movies are bad but really good, and you should watch them. Maybe get a little tipsy before you watch them, but they're a
The
lot of fun.
The Thomas Jane one's a bit slow for me. The Ray Stevenson one, I can watch that.
Warzone is amazing.
What a film! If you want to see an Irish parkour guy with dreadlocks getting blown up by a rocket launcher,
mid-jump,
if you want to see brutally comic accurate Jigsaw,
oh my god!
If you want to see Looney Bin Jim murder a man with a wine glass through the neck, yeah, just so many moments in that movie.
That movie is so dumb, and I love it.
It's great.
It's so
phenomenal.
Dumb.
And Colin's in it too.
Yes, Colin Salmon is in that one.
And Soap, yeah.
The Thomas Jane one is slower. They were trying to make a more serious movie, but like,
and then the end was just insane.
Once they get to the part where he does punishing, there's so many good bits in that movie. The entire Russian fight that they adapt is great. The finale is amazing. Definitely.
I remember the scene where he sneaks into, I think it's Travolta's house or like the compound, and he's killing guards one by one. That was cool. That was very kind of Splinter Cell. Yeah, that was.
And then he does a whole setup where he tricks John Travolta's character into thinking that his wife is sleeping with his best friend, but like his best friend is gay, it turns out, and he kills both his wife and his best friend like really brutally, and then at the end, the Punisher's like Frank Castle's like, I made you kill your wife. I made you kill your best friend. Then he tosses in Polaroids of his best friend making out with a dude. And it's just, you're just like, okay. So he's really twisting the knife. And then it ends with a big CGI stupid shot of a parking lot with him blowing up a bunch of cars from an aerial shot where they form the Punisher skull. And you're like, how did he set that up? Oh my god.
He's the Punisher, don't question it.
They've done it just after Daredevil, and in Daredevil there's a part where, what's the wee bald Italian guy from Memento, whatever he's called, he throws a cigarette in the subway, somebody's killed, and he throws a cigarette in the floor, and the DD appears in flames on the floor, like spelled out with gasoline, and then then they'd done the Punisher thing, so I assume it was the same idea with that.
You guys really want to know my dark secret?
What's that?
I kind of fucking love the Ben Affleck Daredevil movie.
It's not.
You love it.
I don't think it's bad. I think
it's terrible, but
that scene on the seesaw is just a killer for me.
Yeah,
it's so bad. But I really love Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin.
Oh, it's Wilson Fisk is great.
I really love Colin Farrell's Bullseye.
Yeah,
not happy.
I was going to say the casting of Jon Favreau is Foggy was brilliant.
It's great. Yeah.
That's bad. The director's cut is better. That doesn't mean it's good. It's better.
Yeah.
That's my real guilty pleasure, but I'm almost like ashamed to admit that one. At least the Punisher movies, you're like, okay, I can kind of see it. The Daredevil movie, you're like, this made Ben Affleck not want to do superhero movies until he put the cape and cowl back on for Batman, which thank God he did.
Do you know something? I like the Daredevil suit in that film as well. A lot of people hate the suit, say it's too much like a biker, but I like the suit, man. I think it's cool. I like the DD on the side.
It's a little BDSM, but you know, whatever.
I like it, man.
I like that he sleeps in a coffin full of water, so that
I like that too.
Noise doesn't like.
Yep.
Also, there's some cool things like his money is all folded in a certain way, so you can tell what's what because he's blind. Like, there's some cool ideas in that movie.
I also prefer the sonar vision in that film to the Charlie Cox sonar vision. I prefer the blue thing to the fire, personally.
I feel like I remember watching I used to really love, and this is something I miss in the era of streaming, I used to really love watching special features and directors' commentaries and stuff on movies. And I remember watching the commentary. It was either a special feature or a commentary for Daredevil. And it really sounded like the guy who made that movie really pushed to make a Daredevil movie and really loved the character, and like maybe it didn't pan out the way he hoped, but it sounded like there was genuine love for the character of Daredevil going into making that film. And you can tell it's not a great film. It's silly. The whole Jennifer Garner, Ben Affleck, like, I'm gonna fight you so you date me scene is stupid as hell. Let's not even talk about the Elektra movie, which is not a guilty pleasure. It's just bad.
They should let Jon Favreau direct a Daredevil film because if he's in that one, he's in the MCU. That would be great.
Yeah.
Let him do the MCU Daredevil. Yeah.
I mean, they're talked about last week. Allegedly, Charlie Cox is coming back as Matt Murdock in Spider-Man: No Way from Far From Home coming. Home time, home game, Spider-Man home
slice.
Game. Spider-Man home slice. No, I can't make that joke. That's not an okay joke. Oh, that's the Miles Morales movie. I'm editing that out.
Is there any more guilty pleasures?
We should probably talk about something else.
I think we should talk about either news or Loki.
Well. Just wait for it. All right. Let's talk about some news.
Okay.
We're going to have to cut this podcast into sections, aren't we? Dan?
I think
fingers ready.
I think we should kick off with the fact that if you listen to last week's podcast, the E3 Predictions podcast, Massimo has just gained himself a point because allegedly Nintendo are fit to announce a remaster of Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess.
Let me stop you there.
Board, baby.
Let me stop you there. I don't think he earns a point yet because how is that?
Oh no, it's not happened yet.
How is that different from any other rumor we discussed last week that hasn't been confirmed yet? So I don't think that's point worthy yet.
Look, let me have this one because there's no chance Kojima's going to show up at the Microsoft conference.
It's penciled in, right? But we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Okay, fine.
So Dan, you definitely get a point. They did in fact rename Ghost Recon.
Rainbow Six.
Rainbow Six Panda, whatever.
Do I get a point for Carlo Juan Esposito technically talking about Far Cry at the other conference? Does that good?
I will allow that.
Yeah,
as the official ombudsman of the E3 point game, I will allow that.
Because I believe he talked about it. It must have been Summer Games or something like that.
It was a Jeff Keighley thing.
It was lengthy. He didn't just show up and then he's gone through. They talked for a few. I know because I skimmed through it and didn't actually watch the whole thing, and I had to move that bar pretty far along to get past Carlo Esposito.
Speaking of that, should we talk about Elden Ring?
It exists.
Yeah,
it's a Dark Souls type game.
Yeah, I don't care because I'm not into the Soulsborne games, but it was there, so
it exists.
It's actually going to come out.
Yeah, January.
It's a George R.R. Martin thing. He's doing that, right? He's doing that.
Yeah, he's collaborating. Yeah.
It's a George R.R. Martin thing that's actually going to come out sometime soon after its announcement
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
I think they said release slated for January of 2022, which that does not sound confident.
No, I believe what they said was they said January 21st, 2022. So they did give a specific date.
A release window, a specific date.
If you want to see the trailer and if you want to find out other stuff that happened at the Summer Games Fest, I will put the link in the description to the website article.
It does look pretty.
Yeah, it does look good. Yeah,
but that's the thing. All of the Souls games have looked real. I've really loved the art style for all those games. I'm bad at them.
Yeah. This doesn't count as a point because I just mentioned it last week. I didn't count it as an official prediction. But remember I said how good would it be if they came out and told us there was a new game coming from an old series that everybody's forgot about. Mm-hmm. They announced a Gungrave game at that Jeff Keighley conference. I don't know if you guys played Gungrave for the PS2 days. It was this mental kind of anime shooter. This big guy had a coffin on his back that had he turned it into 2 miniguns and he just blasted the shit out of bad guys. It was awesome.
I'm playing that game when it comes out then, because that sounds...
So yeah, that's getting... I don't know if it's a sequel or a reboot, but yeah, that kind of counts as... I'm not counting as a point, but yeah, that's happening.
The other thing that actually kind of maybe something easy to overlook in the Summer Games, whatever Jeff Keighley fun time live stream, a Metal Slug real-time turn-based tactics game. That's kind of brilliant, and I'm a little shocked that this is the first time they're making one of those. It's the style of the Metal Slug games is so obviously fit for something like that, just aesthetically. I'm not sure why it took this long for that. I don't like turn-based strategy games. I don't have fun with them, but
I'm with you. That's why I didn't.
Cool idea.
I don't like turn-based strategy, and I've never played a Metal Slug game, but yeah, that's happening too.
I think if you're gonna turn a franchise into a turn-based strategy game, that one makes sense, is what I'll say. Like stupid weapons, silly characters, very colorful, like cool. All right, they did a Gears of War Tactics game, and I was like, that's weird. I don't know about that, guys.
In terms of other announcements, just before the Jeff Keighley thing, the Battlefield 2042 live stream happened. Again, there's an article on the website for it that I'll link below, but that is coming out later in the year. There is no campaign, which kind of immediately put me off, but because these military shooters, I pretty much play them for the campaign. I like Warzone, I like the Battle Royale stuff, but see, in terms of like online multiplayer, it's not been my thing for a long time. Back in school, I used to be on that all the time, but not anymore.
I think it's going to be extremely meta. I think it's going to be kind of ridiculous, kind of funny. So I feel like as long as, because the tone of that trailer is it's kind of stupid. Like they don't shy away from the stupid parts of Battlefield.
Yeah.
Like the guy jumps out of the fucking plane.
Yes.
They
include that famous.
That was cool. Yeah.
That is a famous like Battlefield clip that they went.
Yeah.
Let's incorporate that.
Yeah.
And if they keep that kind of feel and theme throughout the game, where it isn't a hardcore serious military shooter, but kind of this kind of fun,
stupid,
not even as bombastic as Saints Row, but something that's more self-aware than COD.
They know it's like, I think the way I described it is like, it's like they looked at it and went, how do people really play our games? Let's evoke that. And the campaign thing, I mean, it makes sense to me because if you really look at it, I'm willing to bet that the amount of people that play Battlefield for the campaign are a very small margin. And I can understand why they wouldn't want to, especially as games become more intensive to make, higher resolution textures, like more and more labor effort. I can understand why they wouldn't focus that budget and that effort into something that is maybe not really the selling point of that game for most people that buy it. Obviously not yourself, but
the thing that's worrying to me though is that it's EA. If it was any other company, I would probably feel a bit more confident about it. But EA, as soon as they announced it, they're talking about battle passes. They're talking about it's more expensive on PS5 than it is on PC, and blah blah blah. That's the part that worries me. EA doing it an online only, turning one of their biggest franchises into an online only shooter is a bit concerning, in my opinion.
I guess that's the thing, is like, to me, Battlefield has always been focused on being an online shooter. When I think Battlefield, I think the multiplayer fights where it's, 64 people get on a server and shoot a guy and capture point B. Like, that is Battlefield to me. So to me, there's nothing different there aside from they're not putting the resources into a single player campaign.
The Battlefield, I got pretty much overlooked and I think it got a bit slated, but the Battlefield 4 campaign was pretty solid, and Battlefield 1 had a good campaign.
Battlefield 1's like
was pretty well liked.
I've not played Battlefield 5's campaign yet. I've got it.
Battlefield 5 is crap, and don't bother.
Okay, I was free on PS Plus, so
well then, I mean, if it's free, then who cares? But like, I had a friend gift me Battlefield 5, and I feel kind of guilty for it, but like, he bought it for me, and I played it just enough to be like, this is really pretty, and I'm not having any fun.
Oh, okay.
Battlefield 5 was dumb because wasn't that the one where everyone got outraged because you can play as girls?
Yeah. God forbid it's not totally historically accurate. Like,
who cares, man?
I mean, the same game that you've got like, you can jump back into a fighter jet after firing a rocket midair, but no, women can't fight. Like,
I mean, to be fair, it's historically accurate in some sense anyway. Like, there was women platoons. Totally.
Yeah.
I think people just took the wrong thing away from it. It's like, oh my god, it's a woman with one arm fight. I'm like, it's a video game.
Yeah, who gives it? Yeah,
Jesus, man.
But yeah, I mean, that trailer. If that trailer is obviously it's not a gameplay. We're getting gameplay later on. I'd expect that sometime soon. But like, it looks so dumb in a way that I'm totally down for it. My favorite Battlefield was 2142, so I'm a little sad that we're getting 2042 and not like 2143 because they could have that same amount of stupid, but like with mechs and airships. Yeah. 2143 DLC, maybe? Come on, EA. I'll buy it. I'll give you my money. But But dude, like land tornado in a blown out, what looks like maybe Vegas or fictional city of your choice. Windsurfing a tornado with a wingsuit? Come on!
And with that destructive environment stuff as well, like just completely
Also,
decimate the map.
What a fantastic use of Motley Crue.
Yeah.
Perfect.
The background,
Perfect. So there's that happening.
Yep. I believe that's all the video game news.
Are we wanting to talk about? I mean, it's been kind of a semi-slow week in comics. There's only kind of 2 or 3 main things we're going to touch on, right?
Video game tangential. The Netflix Resident Evil series has cast their Wesker.
Yep.
And it is blanking on the
Lance Reddick.
I was thinking Lance Riddick, and I'm like, almost. Lance Reddick, which he's a black dude, so the internet's losing their mind.
See, I haven't seen as much kickback here. Has that been the case?
Not as much. And here's the weird thing about that is part of my brain questions the fact that when a protagonist in a film is recast with an actor of color, people lose their shit. But when it's a villain, no one bats an eyelash. And maybe I'm reading into it, or maybe that's a little racist.
Yeah.
Maybe people are racist on the internet.
Maybe people are racist on the internet. Massimo, 2021.
What a bold thing to say.
Who would have thunk it? I'm sorry, I'm the first one to speak out here.
Here's that's bold and brave. How could someone say something so bold?
You absolute snowflake.
Here's the thing, man. I don't have a problem with Black Wesker. I do have a problem with bald Wesker.
Ooh. Nah, I don't care. I think Lance Reddick is phenomenal, and I think he could pretty much play anyone. And the idea of him playing this pantomime villain, I think, is awesome. I love this casting.
Just give him a toupee.
It's not like the Paul W.S. Anderson Resident Evil films were close to the games at all, so who cares?
Yeah. We certainly don't.
Neither should you. You shouldn't. Does the actor do a good job? Then get over it.
There you go.
Don't be weird about things Don't be racist on the internet. It's not that hard. What else you got for me?
Wonder Woman 2. Sorry, Wonder Woman. Aquaman 2.
Wonder Woman 2 was a shit show. Anyways, moving on.
Aquaman 2 has a title.
Wonder Woman rapes a guy. What?
Yes, she did.
Huh?
Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom is the name of the sequel. James Wan has revealed.
Speaking of,
here's what I like about that. It's not Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom. It's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which I love. It's not just subtitle. It is a full ass Indiana Jones like
Temple of Doom.
It is some Harry Potter ass bullshit.
There we go.
And then we've also got the Namor thing.
Damn it, I was going to segue into that, Dan. I had it on lock. I was going to say, speaking of lost cities.
Speaking of Atlantean Kings.
Speaking of lost cities, Atlantean Kings.
I think mine's better.
Yeah, I think yours is better.
I think I won the segue game for once.
Damn it.
The actor cast is Tenoch Huerta. I don't know anything about the guy.
Same, I've got no clue.
No point of reference. But
as we see, we do our research here.
I'm glad they're doing Namor. Like that's as much as I've got to say.
He was in Black Panther. Oh, he's going to be in Black Panther.
For 2.
Cool.
Yeah, that's
Black
actually
Panther.
Good for him, man. He'll be raking it in.
He's going to be in Black Panther and Wakanda Forever as Namor.
Allegedly.
And Wakanda Forever.
Yes. I'm looking at him, and guys, I'm not gonna lie, I can't see it. I don't.
Really?
I
don't know. Let me have a look at this. What's his name?
There's listen. See until you see.
Puerta.
See when someone like this is cast. See until you see them in a costume.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way of knowing. Really.
Actually, Kumail Nanjiani. Do you remember him? And him being completely ripped by the.
Well, yeah. Now
Chris Pratt.
He looks like he's carved of stone now. His jaws have muscles. Have you seen him lately?
Yeah, he's roiding hard.
I feel like that happens with a lot of actors. Once they get ripped, they're like, "Oh, I actually like feeling like this." Like Chris Pratt is just constantly ripped now.
I I could see. I know I could see him as Neymar.
I found a picture of him where you can like looking at his eyebrows and he has kind of a look about it. It's when he's all cleaned up for an award show, and I'm like, okay, give him pointy ears and all right. He almost in some of the pictures here, he looks too friendly, like he looks too nice, and I'm just like, Namor is kind of a dick.
Hello, welcome to the Kingdom of Atlantis.
Welcome to Atlantis. You need an air bubble.
Exactly.
I don't want you to drown like Sonic the Hedgehog.
I think what should be pointed out, though, with the casting of these kind of recent films, Marvel, when they started, a lot of the Avengers cast was unknown. I mean, Chris Hemsworth was a nobody.
Not another teen movie.
Tom Hiddleston was very small time. Like
Evans,
a lot of that cast were
Evans,
pretty much unknown. And
Evans was
Evans was known. Evans and Downey Jr. also the two big, and then Scarlett Johansson. But other than that, they were all fairly small time. I mean, that's Namor. Miss Marvel's an unknown actress. The guy who plays Shang-Chi, I don't know him from anything.
Yeah,
so,
he was. Yeah, he. The funny thing about his is if you look at his thing, it looks as if he just tweeted Marvel and got the role. It's like, like you know that thing where he tweeted Marvel, like, one day. Like Shang-Chi, like he instantly got the role. Like again, it's one of those things.
His name is Simu Liu.
Yeah,
I should just say his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate that. It's like it's not like when Marvel were successful. Angelina Jolie's in Eternals, but it's not like let's cast everybody at that caliber like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and Leo DiCaprio. They're still sticking to kind of smaller actors, which
is
kind of brilliant because
I mean, look at Tom Holland even. Sorry, not
then, when you see them on screen in those movies, you see them as that character.
Sure,
you don't, with the exception of Robert Downey Jr., where I mean, like, but then him and Tony Stark are so
right. I was going to say the same thing about Sam Jackson and Nick Fury. Those characters have fused. Like now in the comics, Nick Fury is Sam Jackson and Tony Stark is Downey Jr. So
the only way we're ever going to get Samuel L. Jackson saying, and if I motherfucker, you got me have to sense that, Dan, and MCU film is if he shows up in Deadpool. It's the only way we're ever going to see him. That's the only way we're ever going to see that happen because he's not going to do it in any major.
Look at this mutant motherfucker.
I ain't got time for this motherfucking Krakoa.
I'm tired of these. Yeah, no.
I'm tired of this motherfucking Brotherhood of Mutants on this motherfucking island.
We're just going blue on this episode.
Yeah, I might as well.
So I'm doing what I want. I'm doing what I want. It's my show. I'm doing what I want.
That's all the casting news. Other than that, there's a few wee drops of comic book news. The first thing is that they're doing the death of Doctor Strange, apparently.
Yeah, allegedly.
For now.
Doctor Strange, yeah.
The synopsis: what happens to the world if Doctor Strange isn't in it? Which is what we were saying about Superman earlier. And it's a question that I'm excited to show people the answer to in the death of Doctor Strange.
They find a new Sorcerer Supreme as it's worked for every previous Sorcerer Supreme before him.
Yeah, they get, what's his name? There's another character, Mr. Magico or something.
Huh?
Magico the something or other.
And the rest of the quality guys.
Senor Magico!
Who
I was thinking of.
The writer said that it's been bittersweet to see him out in his final days, but they've cooked up a whale of a story to send him off with.
They're not going to kill him up. They're just going to do the thing where,
listen, people in comic books, once they die, they're dead forever, right? That's the thing, right?
Look at the examples. Uncle Ben and Jason Todd. Hang on.
Yeah. Jason Todd doesn't
Hang on.
Uncle Ben didn't even stay dead, technically.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, even he didn't escape.
What?
That was
in Spider-Verse, in the original Spider-Verse series.
There's Uncle Ben.
One of the Spider-Mans was Uncle Ben.
And Peter Parker, and they're fused together in the weird. They have the same powers. Yeah, it's a weird one.
Like that. Here's the thing. I'm gonna make a crazy prediction, you guys. Doctor Strange will be alive again by March 25th, 2022.
Oh my God! What? No.
Oh, hey, look, there's a movie coming out that day.
Oh, really? Never thought of it. I think sooner, by the way, because I think Spider-Man's out in December, and if he's in that...
Oh, definitely sooner. I'm just saying, by that time.
Oh, by that time.
Sooner. Sometime between now and March of next year, Doctor Strange will be not dead. as well.
The very last piece of news is that X-Men Inferno has been announced. It's the next Marvel event comic. It is obviously an X-Men based comic, and it's been written by Jonathan Hickman. He has said that, what's it saying? It's a pivotal story that will build upon the X-Men universe reboot that started in 2019 with House of X. The synopsis reads: there will be an island, not the first but the last. Destiny's foreboding words have stuck with Mystique and fans since the very beginning of the Age of Krakoa. Now a day of reckoning is upon mutant kind's leaders, and the shocking payoff to the seeds planted in House of X and Powers of X arrives in mastermind writer Jonathan Hickman's brand new X-Men series Inferno. Cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Big comics are what they are, but sure.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I mean, sounds interesting. Okay, cool.
I respect the fact that Jonathan Hickman is some sort of crazy savant when it comes to crafting multi-year, like, events, meticulously planned. Like, if you read Jonathan Hickman's Avengers all the way from his first issue to Secret Wars, it all works. It all of it's in his head from day one.
I mean, he's got to get lucky as well, though, that he doesn't get pulled off a series. That's the main thing. Like, he's just got to be.
But he's consistent enough that I think the big wigs trust him. I think the investors trust Hickman to sell comics.
My point here being, I don't give a shit about the X-Men in the comics.
I'll be honest, I haven't picked an X-Men up since when they started off Gold and Blue. Was it? They had Gold and they had Blue.
The thing about Hickman, the way Hickman writes comics is a gift and a curse. On one hand, brilliant, meticulous, in-depth. On the other hand, if you don't get in there on issue 1, you may as well wait for just the omnibus to come out years later. You're just going to be lost. And especially from what I've listened to Comic Pop's back issues episodes on some of Hickman's X-Men stuff, and here's the thing: those back issues episodes on YouTube are usually 45 minutes to an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every X-Men episode they've done the past year and a half has been like a 2-hour long just explain-a-thon because there's so much going on, and I'm like, I don't have time to read all this.
It's a lot of I guess world building is cool, but at the same time it's like, well, it's in the medium of comics. Each of these comics is going to cost me £4 or £5, dollars, whatever currency you use a piece.
But if you want to go back in hindsight, his Fantastic Four run was phenomenal.
Also, everything he writes great shit.
But you have to wait for everything to come out and it be
finished. Or
finished.
you have to follow it issue to issue, or you're gonna be lost.
Well, I mean, see, to be totally frank and honest, nowadays I only really buy trade paperbacks. I'm not a single issue guy anymore because I don't have the room, I don't have the money, I don't have the time. So if you're going to go back and look at the Hickman, treat them that way. Buy the trades, buy the omnibuses, and you'll be fine.
Agreed.
That's fair.
Yeah, I think the last thing I bought single issues on was the first Dark Knight's Metal.
Mine was Master Race, Dark Knight Master Race. My last
Doomsday Clock actually was the last single issue I bought, the 12th issue, and that's just because I wanted all of them. I wanted all of them individual. I wanted to have those 12 individual issues.
Yeah.
Which I think limited run things like that are much easier to justify going issue to issue on than something where it's going to be like 100 issue long. Yeah. Whereas Doomsday Clock, it was like it's 12 issues. It's really high quality paper, really high quality covers. Like you kind of actually want that because it's not just like throwaway. Like this is going to bend and it's like it's crap. It's garbage newspaper. Like no, these are high quality products.
Yeah.
Do we have any other news we want to talk about, or should we get into the God of Mischief?
I'm ready to talk about Loki if you guys are.
Loki as well,
Let's get into some trouble. Guys, I loved this first episode.
Okay. I wasn't as hot on it, but I'll let you.
Oh, Dan didn't like a thing. What a surprise!
Oh God,
Dan didn't have fun.
Listen, I did not dislike it, but it was a first episode. It was set up. Listen, I wasn't massive on Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? And that was kind of Marvel's or Disney Plus's Marvel TV show thing. That was their chance to win me over on this 6-episode layout thing. Because as soon as that was announced, the 6 episodes, I was like, I don't think they'll have time to do everything. And then so many episodes of Falcon Winter Soldier, I felt nothing happened. And then at the end, it was anticlimactic. The first episode of Loki, I still think, I've still got faith. I think this still could go somewhere more so than what Falcon Winter Soldier did. But it's still very first episode. Let's spend the whole thing setting up. It's relatively small time in terms of most of it's in the one room, the interview room. It's a lot of old clips from movies we've seen, like a lot of old footage. It was okay. It was all set up. It was the first episode of the TV show.
I think they established a lot more in that first episode than they did in the first episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Agreed.
I'm all agreed. WandaVision as well already.
There's a lot. A lot of it did take place in that one room, but there's a lot going on there. So the things I liked, first of all, the aesthetic of the time variation,
very 50s
agency or whatever. Yeah, very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I like the kind of mocking the corporate structure and the whole, the ticket and the line and the little video he watches and
how like Fallout was that? That was like Vault Boy all over the back.
It all had that like 50s, like, okay.
It's pure, I said Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like, don't panic style kind of thing.
Yeah,
it's like, if you just follow the rules, you'll be fine.
I love what they're doing there. I enjoy Owen Wilson in that role a lot more than I thought I would.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah,
admittedly, Woody Harrelson could have just as easily played that character, which I feel the same way about a lot of Owen Wilson stuff for some reason. I don't know why. But his Owen Wilson's unflappable chillness just works so well with that character, and how he's just entertaining Loki, and
it works well in contrast with Loki's self-importance. And
I think the idea as well.
And
is
why
that,
do you feel like that?
Yeah, and it feels like he eventually can almost wears Loki down throughout the whole episode until he gets to the point.
It's methodical. He knows exactly. Yeah. You get the feeling towards the end that he knew exactly what was going to happen throughout that entire thing, because of course he did.
There's so many good scenes. Like, see the bit with the Tesseract where he breaks out, he takes Tesseract and he looks in the drawer and it's like full of Infinity Stones.
Yes. Okay, so that was the biggest thing in this episode to me is after Thanos, after Endgame, the big question was, how do we power scale? Like, is this going to be a Dragon Ball Z problem where we keep getting bigger and bigger villains and we're like, well, where does it stop? Immediately we established that the Infinity Stones to the TVA doesn't
mean nothing. Yeah.
They mean nothing. Yeah. They are paperweights. Thanos would be a mild annoyance to them.
Because I don't know if you want to talk about the episode kind of technically and then get on like the wider kind of applications of it. We know from what they said in the show about how certain things have to happen, and Infinity War, with the Ancient One explains to Mark Ruffalo that the stones you can stone out of branches. So the Tesseract does need to go back to 2012,
yes,
or that reality's gubbed. So I guess that has to happen, and then we've also got the mention of another multiversal war, which implies that there was a first multiversal war.
That's what I'm saying. It also implies that there is a multiverse period.
I feel like they almost implied their own little crisis on Infinite Earths there.
Yeah. Between Loki, the upcoming Spider-Man, that's probably going to be multiversal. Doctor Strange, WandaVision, like all these kind of multiversal stories. I think that's what the next phase is going to be. I think the next 3 phases are going to be a multiverse, Secret Wars, basically.
I totally agree with that, because I feel like as well the whole thing will be like, there isn't a multiverse at the moment. There's this sacred timeline. There's this one stream of events that are the stream of events that all things must happen on. And what's going to happen is that probably throughout the show, Loki and Owen Wilson or whatever, the Time Variance Authority, TVA, it's probably going to be a thing of like, they're going to question the timekeepers.
Yes.
And it's going to result in like, what happens if we let a timeline go rampant?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of theories. So just to give you a quick rundown of what happens in this episode. So we kick off with the scene from Endgame, where Loki is under arrest in 2012 in Avengers, and Iron Man from the future drops the suitcase with the Tesseract, and Loki grabs it, teleports away. That was the end of that in Endgame. Here we see where he goes. He lands in the desert in what is an obvious homage to that that
Iron
shot
Man,
from Iron Man where Tony Stark, right down to him pulling off the thing from his mouth and spitting it into the sand. He then immediately gets captured by the Time Variance Authority because he is now a variant. He is an aberration in the timeline. He's a different version of Loki. So they arrest him, and it's a lot of Loki protesting and talking about how he's a god and how dare you, blah 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 blah, while also establishing that he has absolutely no power in this weird like pocket outside of the universe.
That thing where they have the robot thing where he's like, if you're a robot, you're going to be completely obliterated when you go through the that is a meme now. That's instantly become a meme. Like that is like,
yes, he goes through a metal detector and they're like, if you're, it was almost very Portal.
Monty Python.
I thought of it very like Aperture Science.
I also thought it was like very like Monty Python, Rick and Morty, I guess, as well. Though,
I liked his like, am I a robot? Like he already felt like he already knows like his ancestry is bullshit. Like, where does it end? I feel like there's a genuine moment where he stops and thinks about it.
I also think it's fascinating how like the Loki that we see die in Endgame is kind of a changed man. He's been through this arc, so getting to kind of snap back to this 2012 fearless ruler leader version of Loki is interesting.
I think as well. But by the end of the episode, he's closer to the 2017 version.
Oh yeah, they definitely condensed that arc.
Slow down.
Sorry.
So he gets processed through like it's a prison, like he's under arrest for time crimes. He goes before a judge after a bunch of like kind of like we mentioned, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, corporate bureaucracy, haha, isn't this funny shenanigans. And they explain to him what a time variance is. And it's exactly like it's a branch timeline. He's a variant, blah, 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 blah. At this point, Owen Wilson has entered the room. And what we know about this is that he's exploring time crime scenes where someone is going through and killing people in the timeline. And we established that the TVA, the Time Variance Agency, they go in and they fix the timeline. But here's the thing. What I'm getting from that is these little time reset grenades they put in there. Yeah. I think that just kills that time. I think it just wipes that entire universe. Like, I think it kills everyone there.
It is called a reset charge. I assumed that what it does is it naturally.
I think it prunes that branch.
Well, they even make reference to that, and there's posters all over the place where there's people like whatever prune the branch to keep the tree safe or whatever, and it's a guy like with a massive pair of shears, like a bird sitting on the edge of the branch.
We see them just like obliterate people willy nilly with their little sticks.
I heard that was like it wasn't fully obliteration, but it was more like it's people being reset. So maybe, as you said, maybe it is complete obliteration, or it's people putting people back in the timeline.
It really put me in mind of Jeff Goldblum's stick in Ragnarok.
Yeah, definitely. So then Owen Wilson basically takes custody of M. Mobius, he's called, which is funny because Mobius loop is a constantly, funny joke. So he takes custody of Loki and he starts basically doing like a police interview / psychological, like just really trying to get into Loki and what makes Loki tick. And he asks this really interesting question of, do you enjoy hurting people? That was very Hotline Miami. And that's where we get a bunch of flashbacks of, they basically just show footage from all the Avengers films where Loki has been. And there's other shenanigans, but what it leads to is this really interesting scene where, Loki escapes at one point and he runs around and he ends up back in that room and he's alone. And so he starts running that footage of the life of the main non-variant Loki. And he goes all the way through Ragnarok, through him and Thor, through Odin dying, through his murder at the hands of Thanos. And it reminds me of the scene from Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier where we see Bucky get freed from the Winter Soldier influence in that flashback, and like the emotion on his face is so well acted. Similar scene here. Tom Hiddleston really sells the internal change and struggle and realizations going on in Loki's head, where he realizes nothing I do matters. The Infinity Stones, pointless here. Everything I was going to do, I die in the end. Like, I'm doomed. And another thing that I think is really cool is I think that harkens back to a Loki comic from the early 2000s that I think has been rebranded as Loki and Thor, or Thor and Loki Blood Brothers, even though Thor only shows up for like 3 pages. But the gist of the book is Loki finds out that there are multiversal versions of him, and in every universe he loses. There is no multiverse where Loki wins.
Yeah.
And I feel like they're echoing that here.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that when we talk about the end of the episode anyway. Some theories going around about Loki.
Yes. So what we find out is Owen Wilson shows back and he goes, "We need your help to hunt this guy down who's killing people in these multiverses." And Loki's like, "Oh, he's such a big shot. Who is he?" And Mobius goes, "He's you. Is a different Loki. They're hunting a different Loki variant."
See, they never use. His thing is they never say he's you. It says it's you or they're you. They're Loki. I don't believe they use the pronoun, which is something I want to kind of.
Yeah, they mentioned that this week that Loki's like
fluid.
Yeah,
but no, it's also something else as well. There's a casting as well that there's been a female casting that's been announced.
Yeah, female Loki's been done in the comic, right?
Yeah, it has been, but
he took over Sif's body one time.
Yeah.
That goes with, I mean, traditional Norse mythology has Loki as gender fluid. So people who are losing their minds, oh, Marvel's woke. No, they're just referring to actually Norse mythology.
It's actually ancient lore,
yeah. Like they're being as source accurate as possible here. Shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what they're doing here. There are theories, so let's get into theories real quick.
Sure.
What do you guys have any theories?
I think my main takeaway is just the first 3 phases was the Thanos arc, the Infinity War arc, and that was kind of however many films, 20 films or whatever it was. So I reckon the next 3 phases, the next 20 films are probably going to be a multiversal war. I think that's what it's going to build up to.
Yeah. Like introducing like galactic threats like Galactus and all that kind of stuff.
Quite possibly in the Eternals and what they called in Guardians, the big colossal
Celestials?
things. Celestials, yeah, like all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, which would make sense for Eternals. Yeah, I feel like we're probably going to lean even further into the cosmic way. That's not the word. The cosmic mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
The brilliant.
Yeah, that's my main takeaway.
The brilliant thing about introducing a multiverse into the MCU is they can now freely recast any character, and they have an in-universe reason.
And they can also if they want to, they can retroactively say everything on Disney Plus, all your Fox X-Men films and all that, it's all
right.
Or your Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Oh, that's another one, yeah.
Let's get into that. So multiversal war, right? They mentioned there were 3, whatever. Are they loosely alluding to the Sony
Fox and Disney,
right?
Hugh Jackman has been saying that the one thing he would come back for would be like an Avengers kind of type movie. So there's his way back in.
The other thing is, I think the TVA. I think the Time Variance Agency is going to be the actual villain of the show.
They're basically destroying universes and stuff like that.
You mentioned Portal earlier, and obviously Aperture have got that same vibe.
I think we're going to find out. I think the Loki that is running rampant right now, whether Loki becomes female Loki at some point or not, I think it is this Loki from the future. After he something is going to happen where he realizes that the TVA is up to no good, and he starts exploring the idea of multiverses and the fact that there should be a multiverse. Basically, I think that's an
interesting thing. Yeah,
I think the Loki they're hunting is just the future of the Loki that we're meeting right now.
Yeah,
the thing is, I think it's more to do as well with, it's less about the future version, but more that Loki's done this once. He's probably done it 100 times. There's probably been there are probably characters or probably versions of characters who have accidentally, they even explain it's like, oh yeah, you clock in to work late, you get on the wrong bus.
Yeah.
Oh, that's it.
And
it's
I
also
think
aberration. Variant.
It's also been said that Mephisto's not making an appearance, even though we see in the stained glass.
Yes, that was an allusion to Loki and his horns. That was not a coincidence. That was my first thought. I immediately Googled it and was immediately shut down. I was like, all right, well, I'm glad we're not going down that route.
Yeah.
Not again,
Or is that a double bluff?
I can't do this.
Look, it'll keep happening.
I also think this is what's going to lead into the Marvel What If show.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we can explore those. Well, what if this happened?
Because again, that would be canon now. Yeah, sure.
And that makes me think that Loki is almost going to play the role of Dr. Manhattan in Doomsday Clock, where he just starts. He goes and he just shuffles little things around to see what will happen.
Here's the thing as well, is that apparently, according to, there was an interview with Tom Hiddleston that I've seen that was talking about how the episodes work, and apparently each episode is entirely different. Like
almost like an anthology.
Yeah. Like anthology style, like WandaVision thing. And I think that kind of definitely gives credence with these things we've seen in the trailers, where we see him visiting different Earths or different futures or timelines. Obviously not really,
Oh, by the way,
universes, could be timelines, whatever it is.
How good was Loki being DB Cooper?
That was great.
I lost a bet to Thor.
I
want to know more about that bet. What was at stake? Like, was it the money? Okay.
Also, the fact as well, the time when he thought he can just watch someone's life. That was an interesting thing. Like, you can see everything happen.
The DB Cooper thing alone kind of made me want, like, I want to see the adventures of, like, young Thor and Loki when they were just, like, hot-headed gods romping around, being rivals and stuff.
Yeah.
I'd watch, like, an animated, like, young Thor and Loki sort of thing.
Oh, man, I feel it definitely be those, like, short animated.
Because I don't think they could do that with Hiddleston and Hemsworth at this point, because they're both, like, 40. I mean,
they've done it with Michael Douglas and Downey Jr. and everybody's been dazed at this point. Why not?
And it all looks weird, so don't do that for a whole series.
Sam Jackson and Captain Marvel looked pretty good.
Sam Jackson's not changed since.
And I mean, young Will Smith looked okay in Gemini Man, so sure.
Yeah, but that was a lot of technology that they put towards that. That was that basically
still not saying that.
Deepfakes are getting advanced, dude.
Yeah, that's fair.
They can make me look like you.
What?
Oh, don't turn me on like that.
We're all tapped to on
me.
We're all tapped to podcast. We got face swapped.
Oh my god. We got the multiverse where Massimo is the host.
What?
Yeah, I'm not editing that. You can get yourself to. I'm not editing that.
Fair enough. I'm excited to see where this goes.
What I'm curious to know is how's it going to end? Like, is Loki going to go back to 2012 and let himself be arrested and send that elf to kill his mother and go through the motions?
No.
Or is
he establishing a multiverse after this?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, is he going to deviate?
I think that Loki's going to be. I feel like Loki's going to be dead. In giant brackets, but it's going to be like Owen Wilson like lets him go or something at the end, or something happens where he gets released and it's like, oh, don't be too naughty, and then he just fucks around and is that, like,
Do you guys think we get a Hemsworth cameo at any point in all this?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
well, we've technically already had a Hemsworth cameo.
Yeah,
I mean one where he actually is where it's filmed for this and not like archival footage. Yeah, I hope so. Maybe this time Doctor Strange will show up.
Speaking of Hemsworth, I remember reviews for Thor 2 and Ragnarok on the website.
And there's also some news about some of the leaked set photos and stuff from Thor: Love and Thunder.
Thanks, Massimo. I will also attach that.
Coming on that wrap, I think.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I really liked Ragnarok. I really like Taika Waititi. Yeah. So I'm into it. Like whatever he's doing with Thor: Love, it looks like he's sticking with a kind of weird sort of like 80s aesthetic kind of thing. I'm into it. I will see that day one. Absolutely.
Yep.
He won me over with Ragnarok. Yeah. Some people thought that they took Thor weirdly out of character with the haircut and the comedy and all. I don't care. It was entertaining. Frankly, I don't think I can sit through multiple movies of Shakespearean talking over serious Norse god.
Yes, I touched on that in the review, but I also made a point to say they had to do something. Hemsworth was done, and the franchise, the character was done, so they had to do something.
That's why Thor 2
we already had two films of that. Yeah,
that's why the Dark World was so forgettable, is because it was like this like
a retread.
Norse god melodrama. I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me something, and merging that with the Planet Hulk storyline was just like, all right, cool. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Like this was the best way to get around the kind of
review for Planet Hulk also on the website.
That's also apparently one of the what if stuff is what if Tony Stark went to Sakaar.
Sick.
and Hotburst Style Armor and stuff like that.
Speaking, we mentioned earlier about revisiting things in hindsight and being disappointed, not as good. When I reviewed Planet Hulk, that was my main takeaway. But I'll let you read it. But yeah, the book.
World War Hulk is a much better storyline as a follow-up. Also, the animated version is crap, but it does have Beta Ray Bill, which is pretty cool.
Are we done with Loki talk?
I think we're done with Loki talk. I can't think of anything else I want to mention.
Have any of you guys seen Quiet Place 2? Or is it just me? Okay. I will not spoil anything. I will just say it was better than the first.
Okay.
I wasn't huge on the first, so that's not saying too much. But it is more...
I liked the first, so you didn't like it? What a big surprise.
The main comparison I can draw is Alien and Aliens. Like the first one's more suspenseful. It's kind of mostly one monster, and it's mostly about them hiding from that monster. Whereas the second one, it's more.
I think I'm figuring something out about you.
Go for it.
You don't like things that are slow paced. Most of the stuff you've complained about, you've mentioned specifically slow pacing a few times.
I don't know. I do like some slow burn stuff. Like I find a lot of time I watch a film or a TV show, and I'll be speaking to somebody else about it, and I'll be like, "Oh, it's great," and they'll be like, "No, it's too slow." I mean, Mindhunter, there's a big one. I love Mindhunter, and a lot of folk complain that that's too slow burn.
I think it depends how the burn is. Some things can be slow burn and like it really slow. So other things can be slow burn and still compelling. But I'm just noticing a lot of stuff that you said you didn't like. Like a couple of things you mentioned that it was really slow. So I'm like, do you just like not like slower paced stuff?
Maybe my attention span's slowing down as I got older. I don't know. But,
you're understanding the authors of filmmaking better, apparently.
But Quiet Place 2.
What I like.
Because they figure out, you've seen the first one, right? At the end of the
first one, know how to fight them.
When they loop the interference and the head opens up, they can shoot them. So that happens a lot more in this one. They can fight against
them. They can actually defend themselves.
And there's way more creatures. Like
humanity fighting back is kind of cool. Yeah,
it's way more intense and more stuff happens, more action happens, and yeah.
I love both Alien and Aliens, so this sounds up my alley.
And there's no mental gaps in logic like that dumb corn tower for the first one. That ruined that film for me.
Yeah.
There is one kind of slightly dumb gap in logic, but I won't spoil it. I
can look past a lot of things if that's not.
The aliens pretty much figured out how to drive a boat at one point.
Great.
Nice.
All right. I'm going to have to watch it right out. There's a movie theater right down the street. They get
to an island, they think they're safe, the alien appears, and then you see the boat, and you're like, did that alien drive the boat? But yeah. It's decent. It's
paddling with the big fucking long arms.
Look past that, and it's pretty good.
All right, well...
They can't swim. That's the revelation. They can't swim.
Yeah.
I'll stop spoiling things.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it at some point. I did like the first one, so I'll probably watch it. Before we close out, a couple of things. Next week, we will be doing a little E3 roundup and seeing how our predictions and the rumors stacked up. That'll be the main gist of the show at that point. And then after that, we've got a whole list of topics we want to cover in the future. So, maybe we'll start putting up some polls and see what people want to see. We do want to hear from the audience. We want to know what you want, because if you're not interested, then there's no point in us talking about it.
I don't think we asked in advance this week the audience's favorite guilty pleasures. So put them in the comments.
Yeah, we'd like to know. Yeah. What's your favorite guilty pleasure? What's your favorite bad movie? I'm gonna say it doesn't even necessarily have to be comic book related. Like, what's just your entertainment medium? Like, what's your?
We've had Highlander and Jumper here.
What's your funky monkey chocolate ice cream that you don't want to admit to anyone that you eat in the middle of the night when you're feeling sad? Also. Later, I'm boring. I'm a strawberry guy. Later this week, our good friend Massimo here will be interviewing Marshal Julius.
Oh, I've already interviewed him, so it should be up. Yeah, that interview will be up. Lovely guy, really nice. Doesn't like Tim Burton Batman films. It's interesting. But yeah,
I need to know more about that, because I can't think of any Batman films.
Ben wouldn't like that.
But really nice guy.
I will also link at the bottom last week's E3 episode if you want to watch that, and the Marshall Julius interview. I'll be
and check out our dumb predictions and me bitching about how Metroid Prime 4 isn't a thing yet.
Never, and it never will be.
Give it to me, Miyamoto. Give it
How
to me.
How could he possibly resist that?
Exactly. That's sultry tones of an American.
That's exactly what I was going for. We should probably draw this thing to a close because we are Christ, hour and 46.
This is going to get split in two, right? But this is
nah.
Right? Really?
Nah.
All right.
Screw it.
I'll do another 2 hours if you want.
No, I mean we could probably split it into like we'll talk about it after the fact. Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. As per usual, if any of this has made you do a little chuckle, pretend you like us and subscribe to us on YouTube. I don't even care if you subscribe to us and then just scroll past us.
Honestly, like
in your timeline. I mean, it would help to have the interaction, but like whatever.
Dislike us, comment, even if you hate us and think that we're a bunch of idiots.
Thanks to the folk who commented on last week's video. It's the most engagement we've had in comments on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
thanks for the downvotes too. We appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly. We actually appreciate it.
It's all engagement, man. You want to downvote us, go for it.
YouTube absolutely works on the policy of all press is good press. Upvote, downvote, hate comment, like comment, doesn't matter. It's all engagement. It all pushes us up. So
exactly.
The only thing you can do to hurt us is ignore us. Oh, man.
Don't watch it scroll past us.
And if you're listening to this, then it's too late.
And if you're on podcast services, if you're listening to this in audio form, you can also leave a review in your podcatcher, regardless of what you're using, whether it's iTunes or Podomatic or whatever.
Share us also. Do a little share. Do that little 3 circles with the lines between them. Do that. Facebook, Twitter, whatever. Speaking of Facebook, we're on Facebook and we're on Twitter and we're on Instagram and we're on YouTube. BGCP Comic Con. Give us a shout. Leave us a line. Tell us about your guilty pleasures. And on the website, bigglasgowcomicpage.com. That's the URL, right?
Yeah, that is the URL.
You're spot on, man.
I always forget if it's a com or a co.uk. I think they both work, actually. Anyways, we got reviews on there. We got reviews. We got the interviews. We got the podcast episodes. I don't write anything because I'm lazy, so this is the only place you're going to find me.
I may write a review for Quiet Place 2, but we'll see.
These guys, they're on there. They write stuff sometimes.
Only a few things.
Dan writes a lot of things. Massimo writes a few things. I wrote a few things back when I joined, and then I was like, I'm too anal retentive with my writing, and every review I write takes like 3 weeks for me to think it's actually good. So I just stopped. My insecurities aside, I think this is a podcast, you guys.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That was nice. I had fun.
We did laughs. We spent a long time talking about guilty pleasures.
I got really overexcited about the Queen soundtrack from
Highlander.
I need to go revisit that after this. I was going to go back to bed after recording this, but now it's 10:20 in the morning, and I may as well stay up. So I don't know. I'll just jump in.
Is this the outro?
This is the outro. I'm gonna go ahead and thank you for listening to Disassembled. You can find more news and reviews on bigglasgowcomicpage.com. And don't forget, you can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube as BGCP Comic Con. Make sure you also subscribe on your podcast provider of choice for new episodes every week.